imagine if let's say we're a couple, then we get our reading today, then the compatibility is like 10%.
No, there's no 10%.
Ju and I, we have a radio partner. He's Gemini.
Work compatibility.
Yeah. Okay, very last question before we wrap. Can you predict when someone dies?
Just between us.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Between Us. I'm Nat. I'll be your host today.
And I'm Juliana. I'm your co-host.
And we've got a very special guest today. We've got Gabriel with us. And that's because today we'll be talking about astrology. But just before we begin, everything discussed on Just Between Us is done in the name of entertainment. So please seek professional advice before making any life-changing decisions. Okay, and with that, do you believe in astrology?
I almost feel like it's a little bit bad for me to say this considering how Gabe is sitting right beside me, but like...
Don't worry, I'm cool.
Like, what is astrology and why do people believe in it? Maybe it's just that I don't know too much about it. And I've never really kind of taken an interest to it, but I'll be happy to discuss more or hear from Gabe today.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so I've known Gabe for the longest time, went to you so many times. So Gabe, can you share with us, like from your perspective, like what is astrology?
Explain it like I'm 5.
Okay, so astrology is basically just a set of data, right? The way I look at it is just a set of data that we use to sort of like understand a person and even an event, even like world events whatsoever. It's just a set of data based on the constellation placements. There's the arbitrariness to it as well. It's not like no, it's not so woo-woo. I mean, the idea is that if you want to go like quantum physics, there's a little bit of that idea of like, you know, the gravitational pull of the different heavenly bodies and how they affect like the people on Earth, essentially. So that's how I see astrology. So it's just a set of data.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it is based on the stars.
In some way, yes. Yeah, it is based on the constellation belt.
Yeah.
But it is not 100%. It takes after, because some of the constellations are longer and some of them are shorter. So for example, like let's say someone is born today, right? Today is the start of Aquarius. So the sun should be in the sign of Aquarius in the sky.
And I also want to say, right, like Gabe's work isn't just in astrology, he's a life coach as well. So Gabe, as an astrologer and as a life coach, right, how does one job inform the other?
Yeah. Actually, it's quite, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to bring both together because as an astrologer, people demand to like, sort of like, oh, you know, you are the guru, so you must tell me everything, you must know everything, you must give me the answer.
Is it people expect like hocus pocus, you bring your
A
crystal
bit.
ball?
Yeah. And suddenly it's like, oh yeah, life sucks, then what do? Do you have like crystal for me to buy? Like a talisman thingy, which I know that some astrologers do provide. But because I'm a life coach, that's not really what I'm about. I'm very much about supporting people to sort of figure out for themselves like where they need to go.
Actually, I really like the sound of that, you know, because you can go to like a fortune teller or somebody who can tell you like what to kind of expect in your upcoming life, like whether there's good or bad things. But you need to be able to apply those results in your own life, and it's a very case-by-case basis. So now that I'm hearing this, I feel a little bit more assured in that sense. I kind of like where this is going, although I still don't understand what it is.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way because of my coach training and background, the way I use astrology is not too different from many other coaches who uses like who use profiling tools like MBTI, Enneagram, StrengthsFinder. It's not too different.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, question though, like when it comes to astrology, you have the person's data, you have the person's like time of birth. Can you like get the astrology of, let's just say, a shopping center that just came up?
Yes, you can. You can, yes.
I wouldn't even know that was a question to ask.
yeah.
Like, is this not a person kind of thing?
It's the birth time or something. It's just the birth time or something. So in the past, before there is natal charts, before we use astrology for human beings, astrologers use astrology to look at like what's going to happen, whether the harvests are going to grow, whether there's going to be crops, whether a king is going to die. Before there was a person's astrology, they used astrology to look at a general sense of where the world is heading.
Okay, so like you mentioned like a set of data, right? So this was also my biggest like issue with astrology. There are a lot of people born on the same day? Like people who share the same birthday, same day, month, year, maybe even like timing even, right? Do they have the same fate?
So I won't call it fate lah. I'll call it like a energy, like whether they have the same energy as a person. So generally, people with the same day, born on the same day, if the difference in time would change where what we call the houses are,
right.
where the part of the sky is. So if you're born like at 8 a.m., sun is like in the eastern horizon, somewhere here, right? And then when you're born at 12, sun is somewhere here, right? And then every other planet has also changed the positions. So that changes the person as well. The energy is similar-ish, but what they care about, how it manifests, it can change.
What?
So I'm a twin.
You are a twin?
Yeah, I'm a twin, yeah. So I have
Sorry.
a twin brother, and they're 1 minute apart, so we're cesarean. That 1 minute apart is the difference between me sitting here and doing this and him being a financial consultant.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're quite different because of that 1 minute.
Does he consult you for readings as well?
No, I give him free. So sometimes when things are coming up, I'll be like, hey, this year the career not so good. I'll let him know. Because whatever happens to him will also happen to me. Because our energy is very similar. We're just that 1 minute apart. But it's fairly similar.
Oh, so you said that you offer the readings to him.
Yeah.
So in some sense, like maybe he's not a 100% believer. In which case, do you think like, someone going in to get a reading with like zero knowledge, like you, zero
Like
knowledge,
me, like, because I really,
yeah, zero preconceived notions about astrology. Is it better compared to like having someone who's like,
Or do you feel like a strong believer is better?
It depends. It depends, yeah. I mean, I have many different clients. There is beauty in starting from scratch, in working with people who has zero knowledge. And then, they will come in with a new lens. And for them, because they're so fresh, they absorb everything, right? Sometimes when people already know a little bit about the astrology, I mean, this is some of the problems I find with working with clients that already know astrology, right? They just want someone to give them a bit more juice, to squeeze more juice out for them, right?
Whatever they haven't read on their own yet, is
Yeah.
it?
okay, if I know I'm a Taurus, for example, I'm looking for a romantic partner. So is it I go and look for people within like my house, which is like a Capricorn or a Virgo?
I mean, you mean your element.
The fact
Yeah, not house element.
House
Yeah.
elements,
The
yes.
fact that you're already like, so like,
Yeah.
you know that those are your compatible signs, is
Yeah,
it?
and I think a lot of us tend to look at astrology when it comes to like finding a partner. Okay, not a lot of us, but many
No,
people
you
who-
want to know,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So you know that, okay, if I'm a Sagittarius, for example, then who should I look for? Who should I avoid when it comes to romance?
It's like if you're single, you want to look out for potential partners. You want to know who's a match for you.
Yeah.
And if you are already in a relationship and then you find out this information, then you're like, you want to check if you are with somebody compatible.
Yeah.
If not, like, oh no, what do I do, right?
Yeah, so like as in astrology, we do offer like synastry. Basically, we put together a couple, right? Their birth chart, A's birth chart, B's birth chart,
So you can read two people at one time.
put them together
Okay.
and see how it interacts. And it's very magical sometimes. I've done many work for both couples, like married couples, girlfriend, boyfriend.
No, but I cannot imagine if let's say we're a couple, then we get our reading today, then the compatibility is like 10%.
No, lah, no, there's no 10%. There's usually the astrology would describe the existing dynamic in the relationship. It would already, if the two of you are in a relationship together, there's that familiarity, there's that, we are close, we are tight. It will show in the chart. It won't be like oh no, cannot be
You know,
together.
like last time primary school got the love calculator.
Ah, yes.
I kind of see it like that. It's like you put in your name and then like the other person, your crush's
L-O-V-E.
name, and then they'll come up.
I know,
that was
yeah.
kind of how I pictured it to be, but I guess it's a lot more than
Yeah,
that.
it's a lot of nuance. It's not like and generally like even the whole idea of like just dating your love like earth signs, right? Because you are Taurus, right? Depends lah. I mean, because it's based on the kind of because there are other planets as well. We don't look at just the sun.
So you cannot take it at like surface level.
No, I mean it helps a bit,
Okay.
right? But it's not like a be all and end all.
Ju and I, we have a radio partner. He's Gemini. So how do, the fact I know this.
Work compatibility. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Every night. So he's like the anchor on our show, right? On the Owls. So we're talking about Joshua Simon. Oh, you know him? Okay. Is that better,
I know
right?
of him. I know
yeah.
of him.
Oh, you know of him. Yeah. So he's on Monday to Friday, and then like tonight, on Monday night, I'll be on air with him, and then on Tuesday, it's her. Yeah. So like. What was your question? You want to see who he works with best, is it?
Or what the
Is this
work-
a competition? No.
I was thinking the word chemistry, but sure.
Chemistry.
Yeah, so I do actually offer like synergy reading for founders as well. So like I have companies where, you know, there are two founders, I put their chart together and then just see how they work. So it can work as well. So that can suggest some kind of compatibility as well. Yeah, but it's not so because it's a set of data, right? It is not so simple, right? Because we're looking at like 10 variables and how the variables within variables as well, and how your 10 variables within variables and her 10 variables within variables, you know, come together. Whether it works, it doesn't work whatsoever.
Okay, I have another question also.
Yeah.
So I've always been very curious about this, but I always felt like one big part of getting something read or your data read and people having tell you what might be coming up is the whole self-fulfilling prophecy thing.
yeah.
So that's why I always say, like, even when I'm reading my fortune at the shopping center, you know, like the forecast for the year ahead.
Yeah.
What you mean? Every time I see it's bad for me, I'm like, no, there's
Yeah,
no
then
such thing.
I stop reading. I stop reading, okay, at the point where it's bad, right? I only read the good things. Then the bad is like, well, if I read this and I know this really, right, then obviously it will happen to me. So what do you say about that? Like, do you still, if let's say I am somebody who comes to you for reading today and I go like, okay, only tell me the good things. Does it work that way? Like, I don't want to know the bad one. You can go and you can see it in your chart, but don't tell me.
I mean, I will. I mean, as a responsible astrologer, I will work with where you are at, right? So I ask for permission, and I think it's important for the person doing the work to be quite clean, right? If I'm not clean, let's say I'm a power hungry person and I enjoy making people squirm and having power over you, right? And then I'll just tell you the bad stuff and then say, you know, 10 months later, you better come back. No, right? So it can be a very manipulative process as well. Right? Because of my coach training, a big part of my work is that I'm not going to do the work, you're going to do the work. Right? My job is to support the person to sort of bring out their own wisdom rather than be the person that offer my wisdom. Right? I want to be very clear with what my boundary of the work is. So as an astrologer, I'm the kind of astrologer that is very clean with what is the data saying versus what is my interpretation and based on my experience of client and what is advice. Right? So there's three components, right? The advice territory is the territory that as much as I can, I don't go there, right? Because if you want to look for someone to give you advice, find someone else. There are tons of astrologer, tons of tarot reader who are very happy to give you advice. And as long as I'm very clean that this is my interpretation, this is not truth, then you get to figure out for yourself whether it resonates for you.
Take it how you will and then see how it applies to yourself.
Yeah.
But how long did it take for you to get here, like get all this knowledge about astrology? Did you have to go for training? Did you
Yeah.
follow
Is
someone?
that school of astrology?
There are many schools of astrology. So there are a few people in Singapore doing training. So I learned from a Singaporean teacher who got her diploma from a international astrology school, which nowadays, because of, you know, like it's impossible to travel, so there's a lot of like astrology schools online.
So it's, sorry to ask this, but it's like legit. Like it's a
There's like a 4-year program.
certification.
There's 4-year program.
And if
There's-
you bring it to, I don't know who employs
No,
astrologers.
so here's
How
the
does
thing.
this
So
work?
here's the thing. Like, and this is the thing about the trade in not just in Singapore, but in most countries. I mean, there are astrology. There are certifying bodies to certify that, oh, you know, this person is a proper astrologer, right? But the reality of how, you know, do people really care? Not yet lah. Right?
So
Maybe-
nobody has really come to you and go like, hey, what's your certification?
No, not really. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know there was an astrology school.
I mean, I've
Many.
I think, yeah, it's like if you're not looking out for it, right? And also probably they're not like physical schools that you can see on the street, which is why it probably doesn't register with us that there are schools of astrology.
There's this really popular thing with with like the Gen Zs, you know, with astrology. It's always tell me your big three.
Yeah.
So what's the big three?
So the sun sign, moon sign, rising sign.
What's all that about?
So sun sign is
I'm so lost. I'm so lost.
You're not Gen Z now.
Totally not. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, I think 10, 20 years ago, people were asked, what's your sign? What's your star sign? But actually, since 10 years ago, that's no longer in vogue. The thing that is like in vogue now is, what's your sun, moon, rising? They use it to sort of like gauge what the person is like.
I mean, I have to admit, I've seen that on socials, right? Like, I follow some affirmation accounts, and I've seen that, and it's always something in retrograde, something, right?
Yeah.
So what is that? What is that?
So retrograde is a different thing. So let's focus on sun, moon, rising first. So sun sign is basically the position of where the sun is when you're born. Moon is where the moon is in the constellation belt. Rising is the sign that is rising on the horizon, on the eastern horizon, when a person is born, right? So each of them, like, I see as a three kind of like three basic foundational energy of a person and how it informs a person, right? So sun sign is let's start with sun sign. I think everyone knows sun sign, right? Sun sign is basically, it governs your identity. It talks about who do you want to be, the aspiration that you want to become, right? The way I look at it is like it's like an acorn, right? The destiny of an acorn is to be an oak tree. Okay, so where you plant the acorn doesn't matter. Whether you plant a strawberry field, a sunflower field, the acorn will always be an oak tree, right? So as a Taurus, you'll be like that, right? Like no matter what the circumstances is, the sort of like purest energy in you is about being a Taurus. And moon sign is a different thing. So moon sign is about the past. It's about the past. It's about like what makes you feel very safe, right? And different moon sign will have different tendencies, right? So sometimes people may think that they are not. They when they look at their sun sign, they don't really vibe.
Not
as much,
vibing with it,
because the moon sign, it might be the one that they are more accustomed to.
Okay.
Yeah, so rising sign is basically how you want to show up to the world, right? I call it like the reptilian brain side of you. If you heard of like the triune brain, right? It's like the part of you where you show up to the room for the first time. What do you tend to do, right? So, for example, if I'm a Sagittarius rising, when I enter a room for the first time, I want to learn, right? I always have a learning disposition. Some people, when they enter a room for the first time, they want to be a good girl or a good boy, right? Because it's very conditioned in them, right? So that is the rising sign, how you want to show up and how you want to be seen.
Okay, very last question before we wrap. Can you predict when someone dies? Can you predict death in a chart?
So I can't do that. Maybe the astrologers I can, I'm not sure. But there are also ethics of like death predictions. So when you do forecasting, it's just forecasting the energy, right? It is 87% precipitation, right? But it's not going to be, we don't know whether it's going to rain. So, it's just a forecasting of the energy. What's going to happen at the end of the day is still the human and the agency, right? So, but to sort of simplify the question, can I predict death? No. Yeah, but I can tell that sometimes people are going through a tough time that is like death. Yeah, so I have a client that had a very difficult transit, right, where they would feel like they're going to die, right? And when I did the forecasting for them, I know we don't really know what's going to happen, and then later she found that she got cancer.
Oh.
Yeah, they got cancer. And then but then through that, there's like a death and rebirth kind of thing for them. And they're completely anew. So now they're living their best life.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Ju, how are you feeling?
I don't know. Like, I have to be very honest. I don't know. I think that's all, like I said, I'm learning a lot from this. I'm very open to, and what he says, I think I like that he's coming from both an astrologer and a life coach. That's what I'm I like that stance so far. It doesn't sound full woo-woo. It's just like, oh, you buy this one and then suddenly your
Right.
your future becomes better. That
Yeah.
was something that I was always a bit more iffy about also. Yeah. So, but I feel like we potentially have a lot more questions for Gabe. So this is
Oh,
just
yes.
part one.
Yes, we've got part two because Gabe has already shared with us a little bit about the big three. We've talked about the chart as well. So in the next episode, very exciting for Juju because we're gonna read her chart.
I've never got my chart read before. I don't even know what that means. I didn't even know to say that line until before today. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see you in part two. In the meantime, though, tell us what your big three is. I don't know. I want to know. So interesting. And don't
Yeah.
forget to like and subscribe. We will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.